Joining me now, NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. AIPAC has been so powerful, and it's controversial, the way they use their money, but it's just not that evident in Minnesota.
It's not, because Omar actually has the fundraising advantage in this primary, almost a 6-to-1 advantage in spending, according to the latest spending documents that we have, Andrea. And what's notable about that is that when we saw Jamal Bowman get defeated in New York and Cori Bush ended up losing in Missouri, they had the fundraising and spending deficit, and precisely because AIPAC and other groups were boosting Cori Bush's and Jamal Bowman's primary challengers. This doesn't seem to be the same case. Now, it is worth noting, as you just said, that Omar only defeated Don Samuels by 2 percentage points in 2022. So I think we should brace ourselves for a potentially close race. But the same dynamics that we saw in Missouri and New York don't seem to be evident in this primary.
Is Tim Walz weighed in at all, the governor of Minnesota?
Not to my knowledge, Andrea, but of course Minnesota now has become a little bit more in our political zeitgeist than it was earlier. And then again, not only you end up having Minnesota, but because I'm focused always on the battleground states, the state that actually ends up touching Minnesota and bleeds into a lot of markets is Wisconsin.
Mark Murray, thank you. And speaking of Wisconsin, it's also primary day in neighboring Wisconsin, across the border, where Dr. Christian Lyerly is the lone Democrat running for the open seat vacated by Republican Mike Gallagher. If elected in November, Dr. Lyerly will become one of the first pro-abortion rights OBGYNs in Congress. Dr. Lyerly is the Democratic candidate in the 8th Congressional District and joins me now. It's good to see you again, Dr. Lyerly. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, there's a lawsuit challenging an 1849 abortion law that's been playing out in Wisconsin. And you've had to make the hours-long commute to rural Minnesota to do your job. Talk to me about your workflow. Is that once a week, or how do you handle your patients?
You're so right, Andrea. When the Dobbs decision came down, we lost nearly all access to abortion care here in Wisconsin. The only exception was the life of the mother. So I joined the Attorney General's lawsuit to fight back against this terrible law. And I'm proud to say that it's my name that's on the judgment that brought abortion back to Wisconsin. But as a result, I've been attacked. There have been attacks by anti-abortion groups against my medical license. So it's not safe for me to practice here in the state where my family has been for 6 generations. So I travel to northern Minnesota once a month for about 7 to 10 days. I deliver a lot of babies, I do surgery, I provide contraception and take care of women who are having issues with menopause, just general OBGYN stuff, in an environment where people desperately need health care and we just don't have enough doctors.
And the Trump campaign has been in various stages on the abortion issue, hoping that it does not become a galvanizing issue. Since the time has elapsed since Dobbs, what are you seeing in the campaign? Are people energized over this issue in your district and in Wisconsin?
Interestingly, people are very energized in my district. And if you look at Wisconsin's 8th, which is the Green Bay area, this is an open seat in the swingiest district, where the most independent voters are, of the swingiest state during the most consequential election of our lifetime. And this election will be a showdown between an anti-abortion extremist and me, the 6th generation Wisconsinite born in this district who brought abortion back to Wisconsin. Andrea, this race could very well become the national referendum on abortion.
And you also know your neighboring governor, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, well, now that he's the running mate. Tell us about him and how supportive, what his positions have been throughout the years that you've known him on this issue.
I am a fan of Tim Walz for so many reasons. But he signed a law, a shield law, protecting patients and doctors who come to Minnesota to provide or receive health care. And he invited me and some of my colleagues to be there at the signing, because that is life-saving for our patients and for many Wisconsinites. But the defining moment for Tim Walz, for my impression of Tim Walz, was when I was working in southwestern Minnesota in an area where Trump won in 2020 by 94%. It couldn't get any redder. And when there was a train derailment, Governor Walz was there like that. He showed up. He reassured the people. He knew this was not friendly territory, but he was that leader that everybody needed to see. And I admire that in him, because that is what all Americans want, is a leader who they believe is working for them.
Now, as I just note that Donald Trump won the Mike Gallagher district, your district. So you've got a hill to climb against Republican, red state support right there in Wisconsin.
Yes, but it is a very district than it was last time around. Mike Gallagher was a very popular congressman for everyone. These are independent voters. These are not Democrats or Republicans. These are famously independent voters. And they want someone who hears them, because of the gross partisan gerrymandering Wisconsin has been living with for the last decade. Our legislators here in the state haven't had to respond to people. They haven't had to work for their jobs. Green Bay was carved up into 3 Senate districts, which is ridiculous, to water down the actual center. That's the 3rd largest population and center in the state. And to carve it up into 3 different Senate districts just takes away what the people of Green Bay want to see. Now that we've got new maps, and we've got candidates running in every single Senate district and nearly every Assembly district, we haven't had this in over a decade. And our candidates are out in every corner of the state talking to people who haven't been heard in years. It's making a difference, Andrea. We know it will increase voter turnout, not just for me, not just for the Assembly and Senate candidates, but for Senator Tammy Baldwin, and certainly for the Walz and Harris ticket.
Oh, thanks for your perspective from the Democratic side of the campaign. Of course, we'll talk to the Republicans from Wisconsin. Open invitation. Thank you, Dr. Lyerly.